I want to talk about this really quickly as it relates to my own experience. Joy is literally the bedrock of who I am and my MS journey. It's also a common theme that I have found throughout my years of training, studies, and just living with MS. And so it is one of those things that I think is so important, especially as we navigate our lives with MS, that we figure a way to find joy every moment. Well, not every moment, right? Because we're human, but just find some spark every day to help us carry on and survive living with MS. And so to begin, let's look at the impact of MS when it comes to our journey towards joy. So for many people, MS can create, an ongoing cycle of loss and grief. And when we think about loss, we think about changes in our physical function. There's changes in our relationships. There's changes that happen in roles and responsibilities. There's so many things that MS can impact as we're on our journey that it can then naturally push us towards grief, right? These two are closely related. And when we think about grief, grief typically falls in the space of losing a loved one or losing a pet. But there is this silent grief that we experience each time MS flares up and we are dealing with a symptom or we just have something on our mind when it comes to things we once enjoyed and we're no longer can enjoy it in the same way. And so grief, this invisible grief that we experience is something that is ongoing every time MS shows up, whether it's through symptom or in a conversation that then makes you think about something that you once loved to do, and you may not be able to do it in the same way. And so then that then leads us to start thinking about how we can adjust to our new normal. And honestly, my question to everyone is, what is normal? I like to say air quotes around that because this is different for everyone. It's truly dependent upon how you live your life and how you move. So, the things that you have come to know that provides a sense of comfort for you and your brain and your body that you default to, this is your normal. So, when MS comes in and disrupts that, you may feel like you're losing control of your life, of your body. And then it starts you down this spiral of wondering, well, who am I now? And those are very, very normal things to ask yourself as you're going along your journey. Okay. And so within our community, there's so many changes that also occur that's a little bit more personal to us, right? So family and caregiving roles, family is so important in our community, and we are some of the strongest people out there. And so with knowing that, right, family is a big deal. Sometimes we can show up as a caregiver in our families. And then if MS comes through and starts to shake things up, we may now need to shift our role and someone needs to caregive for us. And that can also create a bit of an issue because again, we have to relinquish control and we have to try to figure out how to move forward in a way that still allows us to feel like ourselves without losing ourselves completely. And so there's always those expectations around strength. And I always say that the strong one also needs support. But, what can you do? We're just strong, resilient people. And so with that being said, there's expectations for us to continue to move forward, even on those days where things are really hard for us. But because our symptoms are invisible, a lot of people don't understand it, and therefore they're just like, well, push through it, keep going. And that can really impact the way we show up and how we relate to joy in general. And then there's that sense of purpose, leadership, and contribution to your community and to the world, to something greater than yourself that really gets thrown in the mix as well when it comes to experiencing joy on your MS journey. The thing about these points is that you'll see them intermingled throughout this talk because they relate to one another so closely. And so I do challenge you today to maybe reframe the way you think of some of these points because you'll see them again. And as humans, unfortunately, well, fortunately, we are wired to to be negative sometimes, but that has its benefits too to keep us safe. You know, if like a dog is chasing you or something like that, you can kind of jump into action. But it really does require us to kind of turn that switch off and look for other things to anchor into as we navigate through MS, looking for our purpose and overall our sense of joy. And so, what is joy? Oh, before we go there, joy, happiness, and contentment. Okay, so these three emotions are closely related. Okay, and so joy is a deep inner sense, right? It's aliveness. It arrives from purpose, connection, meaning, and presence. Whereas happiness is an emotion that we feel more so due to external factors. Someone did something for you, or something came through, whatever it may be, you found something that you've been searching for. Happiness is more so dependent on external factors and it's from moment to moment. And then contentment, this one I really like because contentment is just being okay with where you are and what you have going on. There's no good, there's no bad. You're just kind of indifferent and you're accepting what is. And when you are in this space of contentment, you're more likely in the present moment. So you then can kind of start figuring out exactly where you are and how you can proceed forward based on what you want the rest of your day to look like. And so now moving into what is joy. So, joy is a positive emotion that can improve health and well being. It's also a feeling of fulfillment, pleasure, and delight. And again, these can are closely related to like happiness and contentment in a way, but joy is that it's this innermost um, feeling of all of these fulfillment, pleasure, delight, something that can exist alongside grief, fear, and anger, even fatigue. And I know this one is a little bit tricky, right? Because you may think, like, how can I be joyous when I might be dealing with a death in the family? How can I be joyous when there's social injustices happening? But it's through the grief. Let's use the passing of a family member as an example. So you're at a funeral and you're now at the repast. And while you're at the repast, you know, you're greeting family, you're greeting friends, and what are they doing? Sharing stories about your loved one that floods all of those joyous memories back, and you start laughing and you start having a good time all while still grieving the loss of who grieving the loss of your family member. So joy can exist alongside all of these. It's just dependent upon how you choose to view it. And then we have social injustices, right? There's things that's happening all over the world where you might feel like it angers you, like you have to do something. So you invest your time, energy, maybe your money, right? You're out protesting, you're signing petitions, you're doing all of these things. The byproduct of that anger is you're getting busy, taking action on something you're passionate about. And then when it's all said and done, you can sit back and see where you contributed something meaningful. And that also is a source of joy. So things that aren't necessarily the best things are seeds for joy. It just depends on how you choose to look at it. And so joy, again, with all of that said, is rooted in meaning, value, faith, culture, community, connection, like all of who we really are. We can find joy in the smallest things. We can turn things that some people would say is awful and find a little glimmer of joy, even in that. And that's really what it's about. And so, what joy is not? Joy is not constant happiness or perfection. And I want to reiterate that Joy is not constant happiness or perfection. This is something, again, quite like happiness, right? It comes and it goes, but joy is something that lives within and it's different for everyone. So it's not anything you need to strive for. In other words, pretending that everything is okay or spiritual bypassing. And I'm going to pump my brakes right here, too, because I think we need to talk about this a little bit. So it's natural to say, oh, it's okay, I'll figure it out, or God's got me, not worried about a thing. Well, while the latter is true, that God has you for sure, what are you doing to ensure that, you know, God is really supporting you? Because it says, like, faith without works is dead. So pretending that everything is okay when you know it's not really is not a, I don't recommend that as a way to find joy because you're just sitting back and letting things, well, letting the chips fall as they may, should I say. And with that being said, not taking responsibility and trying to figure out how you can work with God to push yourself in a direction you want to go into, that's spiritual bypassing. And unfortunately, we do see that a lot, and it's not on purpose, right? So it's not a bad thing because it's learned behavior from childhood. We just learn to say, oh, don't worry about it. But when we take a moment, we take a beat and we sit back and we realize everything is not okay, and we can go to God in prayer and meditation and really see what do we need to do for ourselves, you'll be surprised at what you come up with. So for sure, joy is not acting like it's okay and just giving it to God and not putting any action behind it. And so also joy is not wanting things to be as they were. So you're not living in the past, in other words, right? The past is for our learning, is to teach us something. There's a lesson that we should have gotten from that to help us push forward. Now, sometimes it takes a while for us to get it, and we're human, right? So we know how that goes. But if you take something from each opportunity as you move forward, you have a better chance of finding yourself in a different position at the end of it, right? So let's do our best to kind of move out of the past. I know we want things to remain as they were, right? But we're here to grow and evolve. And in order to grow and evolve, we have to change. All right. So joy is also not something you can find outside of yourself. Again, this is something that's super internal and you have to activate this. You have to really do work to find little glimmers of hope to help you activate your joy in a way that's going to support you. And lastly, joy is not a cure, fix, or solution for MS. It's not. But what it is a way for you to shift your perspective on how you navigate this journey. So that way, joy can come in and be like a medicine for it, something that can help you find calm, peace, and relaxation, and kind of take your mind off of the pain, the fatigue, things like that. So, although it's not a fix, it's not a cure, it's not a solution. It's a friend to MS. It can help you definitely shift the way in which you navigate your journey. So here are some expressions of joy. This is where it gets really good, and you can easily tap into energy that will help boost your energy levels. Also, in some cases, your fatigue can kind of be wiped out when you find these expressions and you get busy and get active in some of these areas. And so, the creative expression is really good, maybe movement. You're out there listening to music, you're just swaying. If you play an instrument, getting into that. Laughter, humor, storytelling. Storytelling is my favorite. And here's why. With storytelling, you get to drop back into an event that you are reliving essentially. So all of the feelings and the emotions are flooding back in, right? So all of those really nice, juicy, healthy hormones, those neurochemicals are flooding in and is really helping to support your immune system in great ways. So why not get in there and laugh? Tell some jokes, tell a story that made you happy, and just share it as much as you can. So, faith, prayer, or spiritual grounding, this also is really good. We can have our faith right, anchoring ourselves to something greater than ourselves really does help give us a direction to move toward. And when you go in prayer, prayer is like you are requesting, you're getting on the main line and you are putting yourself out there in a way and being honest and open about what it is you need and you want. And then there's that spiritual grounding too that's happening. You can go outside and walk in grass. You can just take a walk, be out in nature, like become one with the thing that you actually are. I think we're all part of nature, right? So getting outside, feeling the wind blow across your shoulders, your face, the sun shining. And I also want to highlight meditation here because prayer is like getting on that main line and speaking to God, where meditation is you're getting quiet and you're listening. You're saying, okay, what is my next step? What are you asking of me? What do I need to do? And that's just something that I've practiced a lot, and it's been really, really, really beneficial. So, resting without guilt is another big one because we are, especially now, we're in the information age, technology is around, and we have to do everything all the time in five different ways all at once. And although we might be able to do it and we can do it well, should we? Is our body saying, girl, go take a nap? Is our body saying, hey, sit down for a little bit? Like being able to take a beat without feeling guilty for that and not allowing anyone else to make you feel guilty for that. That's also a big thing. Like having agency to say, hey, I need a moment. Hey, can you come do this for me? Like just figuring a way to delegate your responsibility, saying no when you need to, but saying yes when you really mean it, and you know you have the bandwidth to be out and enjoying yourself. So, connection with others who understand MS is really important too. This helps us not to isolate. And also, connecting with people who don't really understand MS might be okay too if they're open to letting you explain it to them. What are you actually feeling? What are you actually going through, excuse me? Because it also helps to reinforce what you're actually living with and going through to someone else. And it's nothing better than enlightening someone on an experience you're having and them being very receptive to it. And if they're not receptive to it, please don't take it personally because that opens up another can of worms and can really create less joy because we're trying to get as much joy as possible here. Also, a sense of purpose, contribution, or mentorship is really important, and also expressions of joy. You being able to share something that you're passionate about or you really care about with other people, which kind of ties back into the connection with those who don't understand MS. Like being that person to enlighten someone or to offer something to someone, right? That does give you a surge of joy, whether you recognize and realize it in the moment, when you sit back and you reflect, you'll see how all of that was really beneficial. And so let's now talk about what gets in the way of joy, because there are things, right? With when there's joy, there's things that come in to disrupt, right? You have to have balance, polarity, things like that. But when you're aware of it, you can spot it, and then you can do your best to choose a different response instead of reacting in a way that might um, take your joy away, or not take it away, but like push it further back in the background. We always want joy to be somewhere that feels accessible for us that we can just grab onto, where we don't have to like sit and stew on something to find the goodness in it. And so, difficulty experiencing joy is not a personal failure. It just means that there's situations and circumstances that might be creating an overcast. Let's call that. It's like a cloud that's like overcast. It's just right there right now. But you know what? It'll keep passing, right? Once you give it some time, it'll continue to move on. So we have things like medical mistrust or a feeling where you're being dismissed by your provider. There's also racism and biases in healthcare settings. And these are systematic stuff that, we can't really help. We have to respond in a way that protects us and that is supportive to us. And I do encourage if anyone is dealing with anything like this, where there's mistrust or you not feel like you're being heard, or there's racism, I do encourage you to take a step back and maybe find another provider that more closely aligns with who you are and the goals you have for yourself. And they're not just reading from a book and not giving you an opportunity to really um, voice your opinion about stuff or just have a voice in general, right? I think um, there's a good bit of us who may have dealt with this once or before, but I think that it's a great exercise for you to become a greater advocate for yourself when you run into situations like this. There's also like pressures that are personal pressures, like to stay strong for other people. There we go again. We know we're strong people and we can figure it all out all the time, but do we have to? Do we have to? There's financial stress and responsibility for other people, and I understand that can be a big deal for sure too when it comes to trying to find joy, but you have all these other things going on that are really big deals in your life. Depression or anxiety tied to MS is another big one, and again, if you are dealing with that, please seek out or please let your medical professional know all your concerns so that they can point you in the right direction. So you can have someone to sit with you and really talk about what might be going on. Like, do not ever feel like anything is too big or too small for you to um, talk to your healthcare provider about. Doesn't matter what it is. Even if you think it's that, bring it up, please. So, and then we have fatigue, pain, cognitive changes. Have patience with yourself. But again, this gets in the way of joy because you can find yourself becoming more frustrated um, as you're trying to, again, fake it till you make it. And that's why it's important not to fake it till you make it, but to truly try to find these authentic ways to express joy for yourself. And there we have isolation again, grief, and ongoing loss. So, as I mentioned before, um, a lot of the concepts are repeated because they all just kind of intermingle together. And again, when you can pinpoint these things in the various areas of your life, you may be able to kind of squash those and allow your joy to grow outside of that. And so now that we've talked about the impact joy has on MS, we've talked about what joy is, what it's not. We talked about expressions of joy and how and things that can potentially get in the way. Let's talk about how to cultivate some joy in your life. And these are like my favorite things, right? Um, it's really important for us to put effort in strengthening connections with our families, our friends, our chosen families, doesn't matter because this is essential for our well-being. Okay? We were created to connect. And when you don't give yourself the just basic things that we were created to do, you then begin to feel other things. And essentially things become harder than they have to be. Like nobody has all the answers themselves. We all need someone at some point. All right. And so when you connect with others, whether they understand what you're going on, what you have going on, or you have to teach them, because I'm always here for a teachable moment. um, it helps to reduce isolation and reduce that like emotional weight that we carry unnecessarily, right? Again, we're human, so there's some going to be some things we're going to hold on to, but to have connection, to have support in that way, it can reduce that amount of weight that we have. Acknowledging your effort, not achievement. I'm guilty for this one. This is one that I think that requires work every day in every way. So when you set goals out for yourself and things that you want to achieve and you want to do, knowing that surviving it, adapting to it, just getting started, showing up really is a form of success, right? You may have to alter things along the way, and that is okay. Like who said that's wrong? I think when we start to really reframe the way we see things and recognize what's important for us, we can then start to see, oh shoot, at least I gathered my materials. Oh shoot, at least I did the research. And then my next step is XYZ. Okay. So, knowing that it's totally okay to rest when needed, ask for help, specific help too. So, it's kind of like, I need help with um, let's gardening. So, I have something being delivered, some soil. I chose gardening because I just planted something the other day. I'm pretty proud of it, but um, I just bought this bag of soil and the Amazon guy dropped it off at the door and it's kind of heavy. Can you come help me move it? Because I don't have enough energy to do it today. And by the way, when you move it, can you actually open it and kind of dump it out a little bit to make it easy for me? Like, tell people exactly what you need them to do for you because they're only going to say yes or no. And then you get to respond to that. And if they say no, okay, thank you. I'll ask someone else. Simple as that. Or wait till you get the energy to do it yourself or find other ways to make it easy for you. And lastly, with this one, honor resilience passed down from our ancestors. Y'all know. Again, we're strong people. I can't reiterate that enough. And so we have been through so much over the generations, and our ancestors have done so much for us to be where we are today that it's really important for us to remember that. And even in the days where it just seems so difficult, you don't even want to get out of bed. It's okay. Just be grateful for where you are because you could have been somewhere else. And so that's one that's really like it really hits me in the heart because I often am reminded of the things that my ancestors have done for me to be here and all the things I've gone over the years. So if you have nothing else alone, think about that because that is something to be proud about. And so as we continue to cultivate joy in our life, we also create space for meaning and purpose. This is really a huge deal. When you have a passion and you're pushing forward and it means so much to you, you're going to figure out how to get it done. So, grounding yourself in your values, your roles, your faith, or in service to others, but also to be in service of others. I believe you need to be in service to yourself, so really keeping all those things in mind too. And although purpose can shift over time, depending upon where you might find yourself in life, being flexible enough to let it shift, let it change, let it look totally different from what you started with, so you can get the lessons and the joy as you navigate creating something different from what you initially started. How many times have we asked God for something and we don't get it? Because it's like, tell God your plans and he laughs, right? And then you realize later on down the road, you actually got the thing you were asking for. You just didn't get it in the way you thought you wanted it. Think about that. Like that's happened so many times. And when you can like separate yourself from, man, I really wanted it to be like this and just enjoy the journey, you'll find that you've gotten where you wanted to be. It's just, you had to go around the bush maybe 5 times instead of going from A to B. You learned lessons along the way, and that's something again to be proud of. And it does help plant seeds of joy as well. So, expressing gratitude, noticing and acknowledging the support that you have in your life, even when things are tough, and recognizing that, like, it's just great to be alive, guys. Like, there's so many people who are not alive. They didn't wake up this morning, and like that's something I know in our community we talk about. There's people who didn't wake up this morning. So, just being grateful for your breath, being grateful that you can feel the sun on your face, like it's simple as that. It doesn't have to be anything grandiose or like out of this world. Just simply being grateful to take a breath in, no matter how the breath feels, is a win. Okay. And last but certainly not least, acceptance. This right here is the pinnacle of cultivating joy in your life. Accepting yourself as who you are, where you are, and what you have going on in your life in the present moment, without a doubt, will ultimately shift the way you look at how you move through your MS, right? Because you then start to let go of guilt, you let go of shame, you let go of judging yourself. And again, I think as humans, That's a natural thing that we do. And so it's not that we're doing it in a malice way. It's just natural. So catching that and being able to say, you know what? I might be in pain today, but I'm happy I can breathe. I'm happy I can sit up. I'm happy that I can eat this food. I'm happy about all of that. That's acceptance, right? And when you accept it, this then opens the door for you to experience more joy in your life despite the pain, the fatigue, just whatever you might be going through, the changes that you're experiencing, you'll find a way because we always do.